Howdy folks, welcome back to another episode of The Good, The Bad and The Ugly. This first replay, well, it's not so much about the guy driving the KV3 as about the idiots shooting at him. KV3 is a pretty well armoured tank and he is top tier here in this tier 7 match on Sound River. But despite all that frontal armour, Cropto in this KV3 is just observing what's happening to that T150 who rushed out to get spotted in the open by that T43 and has very wisely decided, screw that, I'm staying here in cover. He hasn't been spotted just yet, but he will very, very soon. Moves forward to use this rock as extra concealment. The only problem with the KV3 is that the armour, well, most of the armour on the tank is in the hull. It's up to 120mm thick, at its thickest point. He just got penetrated there by the SU-100 and it went right through his gun mantlet. Very well aimed shot from the T-43 in through his machine gun port. Unfortunately, the turret front of the KV-3 is not that good. The gun mantlet is not great, and the thickest frontal turret armour is only 100mm. You can see the penetrating hits there. The T-43 is keeping him spotted. And the T-43 is basically going to be a huge pain in the arse throughout the course of this entire game. Because the major threat right now is that SU-100. Well, not anymore. T-43, of course, is not alone over there. Well, he is. But there are all kinds of happy campers on the ridgeline right behind him, just waiting for the opportunity to take shots at tanks that move into render range and within the view range of the T-43. And there they are. And this is where it all begins. Here comes the incoming fire. And look at these guys. Okay, so Hellcat and Jagdpanther, they're tank destroyers, T-43 sniping for them. I get it, but there's a KV-1 sitting up there. Oh, and that's not all, by the way, that's just what we've seen. And it's just, people just have this natural tendency, whenever they spot a target, to freeze in position, swing their turrets around and start taking pot shots. And that's pretty much exactly what's happening here. And the T-43 is doing a great scouting job. Unfortunately, he's doing far too good a scouting job, because the overwhelming majority of his team is camped on that ridgeline behind him. And because he's lighting these targets up, none of them are moving forward. So Cropto's moved up so you can use this wrecked stock T-150 as cover. And now he's getting hammered by artillery, but look at the hits he's taking. But have a look at the map, have a look at the enemy team list, see what they have remaining. And see if you can guess where they all are. See if you can guess what is on that ridgeline, shooting Cropto over and over and over and over and over again. Bear in mind that anything that's up there is 500 meters away, right? And the rated penetration for your gun with armor-piercing ammunition is at 100 meters. So you're losing a lot of penetration by shooting at something from 500 meters away. And he's in a KV-3. Oh look, some of them have actually moved up into the town. So who do you think is up on that ridgeline? Who do you think has just been wasting money because artillery is the only thing that's actually doing any damage to him? Wait for it. There you go. A Churchill 7. And a Panther M10. And the KV-1 is still there. Well, of course he is. The Churchill's probably only just got there. That thing only does 20 kilometers per hour on a level ground. You don't go climbing mountains in one of those things. How effective do you think these guys have been, shooting at the front of a KV-3 from 500 meters away? The answer is probably not going to surprise you too much. Can he at least get the Panther M10? No, and there we go. T-43 finally punches his ticket for him. So, well, the purpose of this replay, was not to marvel at Cropto's KV3 driving skills. Let's have a look at some of the results. Well, no great surprises there. 75 hits received, and his armour stopped 6,690 points of damage, but it wasn't because he was doing anything particularly well, and he'd be the first person to admit it. It was because the enemy team didn't have clue number one. First, the M6. Now, credit where credit's due, the M6 did at least move forward and got to within 150 metres of the firing line, but he only had the 76mm gun, which meant that he was pretty much completely incapable of penetrating the turret front of a KV3. That didn't stop him from trying though, did it? 26 shots, 13 hits, 1 penetration. Then we have our little friend in the KV1, and what is absolutely stunning about the 25 shots that he fired from 500 metres away is that one of them actually penetrated something and did damage. Panther M10 was marginally less terrible, but had a significantly better gun, and only managed to do 465 damage with the 36 shots he fired. And the Churchill finally arrived at the top of the hill in time to fire 19 shots and do 280 damage. I guess the point is this. There's an old saying in the English language: if at first you don't succeed, try again. By all means, try again. But if you've tried again, I don't know, 50 or 60 times and you still haven't succeeded, maybe that's the game's way of telling you to try something else. Nobody's saying that everybody has to actually study the game mechanics and memorise armour penetration values and armour thicknesses of all the tanks in the game. But the game has its own way of telling you when you're doing something wrong. And generally speaking, if you've taken 36 shots at the front of the same tank, from the same range and the same position, with the same gun, and none of them have penetrated and done damage, I'd put money that shot number 37 probably isn't going to do any damage either. Do you ever find yourself watching a replay, or dead during a game, and observing the rest of your teammates, and just wondering what kind of thought process, if any thought process at all, is going through their tiny little minds? Well, AF 2007, who is in the dead Indian Panzer, sent this one in for exactly that reason. Have a look at this Centurion 1. The surviving enemy tank, the T-32, by the way, was last seen killing an AMX M445 all the way down, practically right next to their own base. What he is doing up here, we have no idea. Now he's trying to get into the mine. What is he doing? I don't even... Okay, well, that didn't work. Oh look, there's the T-32. He's off to actually fight. No, he's still looking for gold. Maybe he thinks this is where Wargaming gets all their gold ammo from. I don't know. It's as good an explanation as any. Look at this. So far, if you've been keeping track, he's managed to drive into 2 rocks, 1 dead tank and 2 abandoned mine shafts, all completely unaware of the fact that there is actually an enemy tank that needs killing. And the poor 361H is trying to spot... What's he... No. What are you looking at? There, look, T-32, right in front of you. Go, kill him. Is this guy drunk or something? Or is he a bot? Could be a bot. Well, no, not even a bot would have behaviour this erratic. The second the T-32 popped up on the map, if this guy was a bot, the tank would have swung around and just headed straight for him. He's not even that consistent. But you know, I always say, if you throw enough shit at the wall, eventually some of it's gonna stick. And even a broken clock tells the right time twice a day. Look at this. I can't believe what I'm watching. And look at the two of them. The T-32's just as bad. They're just sitting there sort of casually pretending not to notice each other. Man, you know you've had a bad game when that's the tank that wins it for you. Okay, time to get serious. This is Robert 924 in the T-95, the mighty Doom Turtle, American Tier 9 tank destroyer. Well, one of the two American Tier 9 tank destroyers, the other one of course being the fantastic, if somewhat unpredictable, T-30. The T-95 obviously doesn't have a turret, but it's got nearly 300mm of frontal armour, and a really, really big gun. This, by the way, is, well, it's not really a new map in the game, it's remodelled Prokhorovka. It's called Fiery Salient, it was introduced in patch 9.2, and it's basically... Prokhorovka was the scene of one of the major tank battles during the Battle of Kursk in 1943, and they've basically remodelled Prokhorovka to actually look more like a major battle was fought here. I really like what they've done with the map. However, back to the Doom Turtle. You get a lot of time to talk about the Doom Turtle before anything actually happens driving this thing. It is the slowest machine in the game, but it's one of the more famous machines in the game. There are people who may very well have seen a Doom Turtle video on YouTube without ever having played World of Tanks, and that's because there are some infamous T-95 videos on YouTube, particularly of people driving these things right across the middle of the open field on Malinovka, bouncing every shot fired at them and just crushing the enemy team. And I feel as if videos like that have led to a sort of mystique that's grown up around this machine, in the same way that the T-25-2, when that was in the game, had a lot of videos of people just whizzing around the battlefield, lighting up the entire enemy team and dodging hundreds of shots, coming out the other side with a scout medal, all sorts of XP, which encouraged suicide scouting. People saw T-25-2 videos, thought, I want to do that, and then failed at it utterly, because what the guy who uploaded the video didn't show you was the 30 games before that where he tried it and got his ass killed. Same thing with the Doom Turtle. I do feel that everybody has very unrealistic expectations of what this thing can do based on videos that they've seen on YouTube. I'm probably responsible for that myself with some of the ELC AMX videos that I've been putting up lately, but that's another matter. This is a strong machine, but it's highly situational. It's one of those machines where the weaknesses far outweigh the strengths. The strengths are good, the frontal armour is fantastic, and the gun is very, very punchy, but it's so incredibly slow. If this thing gets outflanked, it's dead. If it gets caught in the open, it's dead. If artillery see it, it's dead. Even from the front, if you come across somebody who actually has a working brain and knows how to snipe your weak spots, you're dead. But when it all comes together, there are few machines in the game that are more satisfying than the Doom Turtle. It just doesn't come together all that often. By the way, if you're watching this game in high enough resolution, I highly recommend you read Battle Chat. It is absolutely hilarious. Right now, they're all having an argument over whose dad works the hardest. My dad works 70 hours a week. Well, mine works 90 hours a week. Well, if my dad makes a mistake, people's lives could be lost. I used to have arguments like this when I was 5. Actually, hold the phone. You know, if 5-year-olds are playing World of Tanks, a lot of things about this game would suddenly start to make a lot of sense. Well, anyway, that E75's been sent packing, crying for his mummy. And Robert's just taken a hit from a Jagdtiger. We'll check when he clears this bush. Bounces a shot from the E75, he reloads, fires blind, kills him. When he clears this bush, we'll check and see where the Jagdtiger hit him. Because he penetrated, and yep, there it is, under the gun. See the hole there? Under the gun, all the hatches at the top. That's where you shoot one of these things from the front. The Jagdtiger driver clearly knows what he's doing. But equally, you'll note that when Robert was pulling the T-95 back, he didn't just drive backwards in a straight line. He drove from side to side. He was waggling the nose of the T-95. That armour strip underneath the gun can be penetrated head-on by a Jagdtiger or even an E-75. relatively easily at most ranges. But if you put it at an angle, you stand a much better chance of bouncing. And oh, hello, Mr. Jagdtiger. Yeah, how do you like them apples? The whole waggling thing works for the hatches on the top as well. Those hatches are rounded, and people do need to strike them straight on the centre in order to penetrate, and waggling the tank while you're reloading, if you're caught in the open, increases the chance, hello Mr. Jagdpanther 2, that any shots that hit them are going to hit off-centre and just ricochet off the sides. This thing does have very, very strong armour, but you have to make it work for you. See him doing it again to dodge the fire from that Jagdpanther, who's managed to block the Jagdtiger behind him, so he only has to deal with them one at a time. Now where did the Jagdtiger go? He's taking shots at the Centurion, and he's using the dead Jagdpanther 2 as cover. Okay, then we'll move up, and that's a much better shot. And good night, sweet prince. So they've managed to kill a Type 61, an IS-2, a Jagdpanther 2, an E-75, and a Jagdtiger. And Robert appears to be reasonably confident that that is absolutely everybody on the enemy team who was on this side of the map. There's an IS-3 in the middle of the field. And this is where things start to get tricky when you're driving the T95. Everything that was in shooting range is either dead or gone. Now what do you do? You have to make that kind of decision quick and early, because this thing is so incredibly slow. It's kind of like driving the TOG 2. If you don't go the right way, if you don't make the right judgment call at the start of the match by looking at the enemy team list, looking at which map you're on, and trying to figure out which tanks are going to go where, and then put yourself in a position to shoot them, you can spend an awful lot of time sitting in the wrong position with nothing to shoot at, and find yourself the last one left alive, completely overrun and overwhelmed, and have a terrible game, because this thing is so incredibly slow. Hello, Mr. Tiger 2, and goodbye, Mr. Tiger 2. And there's the IS-3. Sneaky little Russian bugger trying to get around the side, but he's been spotted. And you can quite clearly see that Robert is actually contemplating ignoring the IS-3 and just continuing forward to the remainder of the enemy team, but he can't leave this guy on his flank. And not only that, there's a very, very good chance that the remainder of the enemy could be dead before he gets within firing range of them. And there's a full health IS-3 sitting over here, needing killing. And that's a healthy chunk of XP and credits. So he checks behind himself, Centurion with him. The IS-3 is never going to be able to outflank him. Instead, he's heading for cover. Smart move. And the IS-3, well, didn't make the most effective use of cover, but he did at least know where and when to shoot Robert's T95. Planted one right into that 133mm armour plate underneath the gun as he came over the ridge. But Robert doesn't let him do it twice. He angles the armour plate for the IS-3's second shot. And watch this shot here. IS-3, commander's hatch right at the front. Unfortunately, he missed it. Well, fortunately for Robert. The striking thing about that little engagement there with the IS-3 was that the IS-3 player statistically is a pretty terrible player. And yet, he didn't play terribly in that particular engagement. While Robert was crossing the field, he tried to use terrain masking, sticking to the low ground to get up into the bushes on the road and come at him from behind. It didn't work. He then tried to go hull down to take pot shots at him, which did work. Then when Robert closed the distance, he put himself in a position where he could get a shot at his lower glacis. He knew exactly where to shoot him. And when he couldn't shoot at the lower glacis, he then shifted fire to the commander's hatch at the top, and only missed it by the smallest of margins. Now, I have taken a lot of flack in the past for saying that I don't always believe that somebody's efficiency or WN8 rating, as displayed by XVM, as in this battle, is an adequate representation of the performance that you can expect from them. And that IS-3 driver is exactly the sort of thing that I'm talking about, particularly when you're at Tier 8, because at Tier 8, if you're going to get any better, And that IS3 driver clearly is. Tier 8 is where you're still suffering from the massive drag factor of the appallingly bad games you played all the way up to Tier 6 and 7. And your stats haven't had a chance to recover from how much you sucked when you didn't really know what you were doing as you were playing your first few thousand games. Of course, if you're at Tier 9 or 10 and XVM is still displaying your name in a deep red colour, then there's probably no hope for you. But from Tier 8 and below, don't always go writing people off just because XVM doesn't think too much of them. They can and often do surprise you. One enemy tank left, M103. Come on. Come on. Oh, good hit. And now it's the mad scramble as everybody finds their brave pills and straps their man pants on because there's one tank left to kill. There's a T-25-2 up there on the hilltop he's trying his luck. Oh, his second shot misses. 6 tanks shooting at this M103. What are the chances that Robert's going to be able to get a third shot off before this guy's dead? Oh, and there goes the T-25-2. Look at him. At first he was, oh, I'll have a go, it's only health. And then the M103 turned the gun around and suddenly he's not quite so brave anymore, is he? Oh, Robert's reloaded. It's just a question of getting a shot. Come on. Come on. Back up or go forward, but don't sit there. Oh, he's moving, he's moving. We're going to get a shot. We're going to get a shot. KV4 says nope. My kill. I saw him first. But it's difficult to get too disappointed when you pull off a result like that. Ace tanker, high caliber, 8,700 damage done. It's almost enough to make me want to drag the Doom Turtle out of retirement and have a go myself. No, not really. Take care, folks. I'll catch you next time.